municipality of Thames Center's regular council meeting, Monday, August 9th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Before I call the meeting to order, I just want to acknowledge that our team that we treasure the most, our wheelchair rugby team, is leaving Wednesday for Vancouver and then off to Japan for the Paralympic Games. And I want to wish them well and good luck. It's always nice to know that they based a lot of their training here and we see them coming in and out. So good luck to them. I'm sure August 25th, when they start playing, they'll be on the path to gold. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda?
There are no additions to the agenda.
Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Any announcements? Kelly? Sorry, Deputy Mayor Elliott.
Yes, through your worship, I will just announce the Special Events Committee is working on some in-person events, which is exciting. We've got to this point. So just a couple save the dates. On August 27th, we'll be hosting a movie night, outdoor movie night in Thorndale. On August 28th, will be outdoor movie night in Dorchester. And then on September 11th, which is a Saturday, we're planning Bridge Fest. So more details will be coming out later this week, but we just want to save those dates.
Great, and I'm sure we're all looking forward to being able to do something like that. So now we have a presentation, and I'd like to welcome Susan Rallier and Nancy Abra, and they are going to be talking to us about the Middlesex County Archive. So welcome, Nancy, welcome, Susan. Great to see you guys again. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Mayor Warwick, Deputy Mayor Elliott, members of council and Thames Center staff. Nancy and I are here today representing the committee to establish a Middlesex County Archives, and we thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. You have received our pre-circulated report, and as stated in that report, we know you have been receiving a series of educational fact sheets about the archives from our chair, Carol Small. Our written report reinforces several of the key concepts of why an archives is important, including legislative mandates and accountability, the preservation of social and cultural community records, accessibility, the importance of environmentally controlled storage, preservation, and cataloging under the care and direction of a professional archivist, and much more. But to use our time most efficiently this afternoon, we will be focusing on what we have heard from Thames Center residents about the proposed archives and answer any questions you might have. Unfortunately, due to a fairly short time frame, the summer months, and most especially the excitement for everybody about the COVID reopening, Nancy and I have not been able to do as much community engagement as we had originally planned, but we have reached out to the public through signpost articles and newsletters. We've contacted organizations with deep roots in our communities and sent out educational emails to several individuals. We have heard from many people, both formally and informally. First, a little extrapolation. The history book projects in North Dorchester and West Missouri Township collected over 1,400 family stories, and this is an underestimate. More than 1,850 books were sold in the communities and beyond. This demonstrates a tremendous interest in local history, and it seems fair to say that this interest has not waned. Second, we have received endorsements from 13 organizations operating in Thames Center, which represent more than 680 individuals. Service clubs, agricultural societies, and heritage groups have all enthusiastically embraced the need for a Middlesex County Archives, and I would like to acknowledge them here. The Donnybrook Legion, the Dorchester Lions Club, the Dorchester Optimists Club, the IODE Val Griffith Chapter, the Mosley Post Heritage Citizenship Society, the North Dorchester Agricultural Society, the Heritage Book Project, the North Naizuri Cemetery Board, the Thorndale Agricultural Society, the Thorndale and Area Horticultural Society, the Thorndale Lions Club, the Thorndale Women's Institute, and the West Naizuri Township History Book Committee. Last, we have received an additional 65 written acknowledgements of support through our public outreach. And here's the sample of what the residents of Dorchester and area have told us. A member of the Nilestown Masonic Lodge told us, "I have personally maintained all the records that document the conversion of the former Pond Mills Public School into the Mount Moriah Masonic Lodge. These and other records from the Nilestown Masonic Memorial Park belong in a safe archives, not in my basement." A longtime resident and community volunteer reflected, quote, "An archives is a way to meet people, families, and businesses from the past, discover their strengths, why our ancestors settled here, and made decisions which still influence us to this very day." An active community member and volunteer with the Heritage Book Project in North Dorchester related that she was given the opportunity to handle and read the original set of North Dorchester Township minutes dating from 1850. Quote, "I was struck by the age of the books themselves, the ink that was fading on the pages, the handwriting, the issues of the day as presented in those minutes. This was such a valued experience for me. It was not just history, it was real words. And it needs to be stored in a central archives, accessible to the public, where I hope it will give others the feeling that I had as I look back into the past all by myself in the basement of the municipal office." A third generation community member said, quote, "We have a treasure trove of historic photographs which reflect life in the Dorchester area from the 1900s. This is our family's legacy, and this treasure needs to be preserved and made available for future generations." And last, the North Dorchester Agricultural Society was created in 1855. The president stated, "We have a rich 166 years behind us. We have an enormous amount of information that should be cataloged and preserved, including the very first minute book, which is deteriorating in a Rubbermaid container in an office." When we celebrated our 160th anniversary, we created or reprinted photographs, fair books, prize lists from past fairs. This met with such a tremendous interest, it gave us a clear indication that we need to make this information accessible to the public and preserved for the future. After all, it is the history of family, friends, and community. In short, it is the history of us. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nancy, who will share with you some of what Thorndale and area residents had to say about the proposed archives.
Thank you. As many of you know, last February, we lost the Thorndale Community Center when it burnt, and this was a terrible event. Even though the building was scheduled to be torn down and replaced, the tragedy of the fire was the loss of some community group records that were stored in that community center. I talked briefly to the secretary of the Lions, Thorndale Lions, and he told me they lost some of their old records. The co-president of the Thorndale Ag Society said, "Due to the fire, we nearly lost most of our society records. Thankfully, the fire didn't get to them, so we have still some old photos and fair books from the past. A county archive is an important endeavor to make that needs to take place to ensure the rich history of our community and Middlesex County is secure. The North Nizuri Cemetery is located northeast of Thorndale in the north part of Thames Center. There is a brief history of that cemetery in the West Nizuri, our heritage books, but the records that tell that history are not secure. One of the cemetery board members told me, I am fortunate to be the custodian of these old cemetery records, but they should be accessible to everyone. Even more important, they should be categorized and in a proper climate controlled facility, not in a plastic tote in my basement. From a concerned history buff with strong ties to the Thorndale community, said an archives of our past is more reliable than the perception of past occurrences. We should not surrender our past to someone who may tell it differently. Recently, I was forwarded an email from a community, a Thorndale community group. The email was from a person who was researching her family history that led her to the old West Nizuri Township. In her email, she was asking for information about the property her ancestor cleared, settled, and later died on in 1845. Unfortunately, there is no county archive for me to refer her to. So what do I tell her? And from the executive director of Fanshawe Pioneer Village, Don Miskelly, stated, archives have a story to tell about the regions they cover. Their records, documents provide a method to understand, interpret the past from primary sources. They are valuable to resources, to historians, those researching genealogy, property, and legal issues. The central repository for researchers to access the county historic birth, death, marriage records, land registry, titles to property, maps, court records, architectural plans and engineering drawings, meeting minutes, and other municipal records would be an asset to Middlesex County and to the people it serves. All of the above quotes that Susan and I have told you show the urgency in invest in our future to preserve our past. Thank you for listening to these voices.
That basically concludes our formal presentation, Mayor Warwick, and we're pleased to try and answer any questions any of you have.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Nancy. You know, I think a lot of people have a preconceived idea that archives and records will be dry, dusty, and not very interesting, but I can tell you, reading some of those archives will give you goosebumps when you look at what people struggled through and what they did in the past, be able to, we have a great place to live that they helped settle and help clear the way. And we owe it to them, I think, to be able to restore and have these things stored properly in climate controlled areas. So I think you're on the right track here, trying to get this Middlesex archives underway. So congratulate you on this task. I know it's going to be a long call, but it's definitely worth doing. Council, any questions or comments? Councillor Heeman?
Yes, I'd just like to comment that I agree to support this initiative. I think that there is an unfortunate history of losing records in the history of West Nizuri. I know that a great many of the early founding documents were lost in the fire back when the East and West Nizuri were joined. So I think it is a tragedy that we don't have those documents. Likewise, I think I've seen the Thorndale Agricultural Society Minute book, and it's been useful on more than one occasion. And I'm curious whether it did survive the fire of the community center. So I think we have an established baseline that maybe we should have a safe place to store these items. And likewise, I can attest to the personal joy of exploring the results of archives. And one of the things that I really dug into during COVID was collecting century-old books, and they were only available because of the Ontario Agricultural Society's collection at Milton, and the surplus documents that were archived at the University of Guelph are now available. So they have an excess of this history. And again, like, we have a very unique story to tell in Southwestern Ontario as a founding area of the nation. And I think as we look back into reconciliation and how do we have a path forward, we need to know where we came from and the decisions that were made in order to prepare that information.
Thank you, Councillor Heeman. Councillor Patterson, I saw you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, Mayor Warwick. Just interested, is there examples of other communities establishing these archive committees within Ontario?
Yes, the most recent one was 2020 in Norfolk County. Middlesex County is actually the only county. I believe you would have received maybe an email. I don't have it, I'm sorry, in front of me, but I can get it. I can forward it to you, Councillor Patterson, through the clerk, which shows you a map of all of the archives in our area. And Elgin, for example, Lambton, Owen Sound, Perth, Bruce, Wellington, they all have, and they've all been established in the 70s. So we really are a hole in this area on the map. I can also say that the Elgin County Archives was established through a community group that brought the information forward to the Elgin County Council, or however it works. I'm not quite sure. Did that answer the question?
Councillor Patterson, good.
Yes, it does. And my next question, if it's all right, Mayor Warwick, or maybe a comment, I'm not really sure. I know the recommendation is to receive this report, but there's really no action to it. So what do we do to make this committee happen?
So Susan, do you want to answer Chris's question on what the next steps that you'll be taking as a group?
Yes, thank you. The Middlesex, the executive or the steering committee of the Middlesex County proposed Middlesex County Archives Committee will be going to County Council on September the 28th. And they will be making a formal presentation requesting that the county make a commitment to establishing an archives. I'm not, I would have to defer to Mayor Warwick around what municipal council can bring to bear on that process, because I do know that there's only 2 voting members from our council.
Any other questions?
Well, okay.
Councillor Heeman?
Would it be appropriate for us to provide an endorsement that could possibly inform the deliberations?
I think so any support for this project, if you want to offer some support, is worthwhile. I don't think that would be turned down at all by Nancy or Susan, because I think they're starting a very, a long journey towards this. And we know that, first of all, archiving anything takes a long time. It's a process. So going ahead and taking all the records and starting them to actually is a huge project on its own. To have a place to store them is going to be the key place that obviously anybody that does work with archives knows it needs to be climate controlled. It needs to be a dedicated space for this type of thing. So I think, yes, if you wanted to say Thames Centre supports the idea of the Middlesex County Archives, that would not be turned away. I think it would be a nice step. Thank you. Councillor Heeman?
I would move to pass the recommended motion of the addition of the endorsement.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Elliott. Second that. Okay, and
so,
yep, Councillor Patterson.
sorry, Councillor Heeman cut out on his mic there. I couldn't hear what his motion was.
Yeah, I don't think the mics are live, no, so just talk to your computer. Or talk loudly to that.
Okay, I would move the recommended motion with the added endorsement.
And the endorsement is just a support. Yeah.
So Thames, the municipality of Thames Center would support the establishment of a committee of a Middlesex County Archive Committee.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Councillor Heeman?
Well, I think we have a committee already. I think that's already in place. It's just a matter of, pardon? Just the archives, just supporting that the archives be something that would be pursued. Yeah. Is that okay, Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, I understand what the motion is now. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so we got a mover, we got a seconder. So all in favor? Okay, and that's unanimous. Thank you. And thank you, Susan, and thank you, Nancy, for taking your time out of the day to visit with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the endorsement as well.
Thank you very much.
Good day.
Alice?
Your worship, just so the viewers at home are aware, we experienced some technical difficulties at the beginning of the broadcast. So Nancy and Susan's presentation was not seen on the YouTube live. It will be uploaded after the meeting.
Great, thank you. Great. So we're moving on to the consent agenda. Items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and may require discussion, but no action on the part of council. Consent items are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more item be removed for further action. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different items here. Is there anybody that wishes to pull anything out before I go through them? Seeing none. So we have 6.1 regular council minutes. 6.2 Ontario Energy Board notice. Guess what? That's to raise natural gas rates. 6.3 Middlesex London Health Unit monthly update. 6.4 a letter from the Solicitor General, which is new legislation regarding protection of pets, specifically ones that are left in cars. 6.5 Accessibility and Inclusivity Advisory Committee minutes, July 15th, 2021. Okay, motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Councillor Hunter, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott. All in favor? Great. Now we're moving on to reports of departments. The first report we have, 7.1, is from the administration, and the report is C00521, 2022 regarding the municipal election. And who is taking this? I would assume the hardworking clerk.
Good afternoon, Council. The report provides information of the municipal elections that are going to be taking place next year, October 24th, 2022. An alternative voting method bylaw needs to be approved before May 2022 to allow for internet and telephone voting. This will be approved for the 2000. It's requesting that it be approved in the 2022 election. Middlesex folks have been meeting beginning of this year, quite a few times now, and we have heard presentations from IntelliVote Voting, who is a provider that provided the internet elections in 2014 and also 2018. There is only a quote of 10% per voter increase from the 2018 election, so it's very minimal. The report also includes information on current council composition and also some key election dates and legislative changes that are coming into effect next year. If council has any questions regarding the report, I'll be happy to answer any of those.
Okay. Council, any questions regarding this report? Well, I would say it's nice to know that there's minimal changes because that last election was enough for a clerk to retire. They did make one retire. We were talking to another mayor last week, and he said his own municipality had 1,100 corrections on their voters list and 600 additions for that election. So that was a lot of work. Something that hopefully we're all caught up on. Moving forward will be handled a little differently. Okay, so we have any questions, council? Have a recommendation in front of us for information, and then the bylaw for the alternative voting method for the 2022 municipal and school board election be approved. Looking for Deputy Mayor Elliott to move, seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Okay, so moved. And moving on to F01221 financial results to March 31st, 2021. And there they are. We have our director right on board there. Welcome, Ms. Grogan.
Thank you very much. And through you, Your Worship, report F012-21 is before you and provides financial reporting to March the 31st, 2021. It's difficult to predict the year-end financial position when considering this first quarter results report due to a number of factors including our seasonal activities, the timing of reconciliations for our assets and liabilities, interdepartmental allocations, entries to reserve, and allocations of surpluses for those cost centers that are full cost recovery, as well as the timing of year-end audit entries and our interim and final taxation billing dates. So included in the report is a detailed listing of cost centers with comparisons to variances with some explanations to support some of those fluctuations from budget. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Council, any questions for Kim regarding that first quarter? No, I think we're in the same position as a lot of businesses. It's just going to be a matter of waiting to the end of the year and seeing how everything washes out, because how can you predict and how can you affect, what the effects are on budgets? There's money coming in that we weren't budgeting for. There's money going out that we're not budgeting for. So it's going to be an interesting year. So, okay, we have that report in front of us. Looking for a mover. Councillor Hunter, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favor? And our next report is again financial results to June 30th, 2021. And Ms. Grogan, go ahead.
Thank you again, and through you, Your Worship, report F-01321 is before you and provides our financial reports to June the 30th of 2021. Again, it's difficult to predict our year-end financial position when just considering this cumulative report that goes up until the end of Q2 for the same reasons that just previously disclosed. I would be happy to answer questions that council may have at this time.
Council, any questions for this quarter? No, seeing none. And then I would like a motion to receive this report for information. Councillor Patterson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott. All in favor? And so thank you, Kim.
Thank you much.
Next, we have our next report is from our planning department, delegation of powers and duties policy, a subdivision approval. And Mr. Bancroft is on the screen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, members of council. So what we have before us is report number PDS 50-21. And this is a request for an update to our delegation of powers duties policy by including a delegation of power to myself to assist with executing subdivision agreements. Currently, our process is to have agreements go before council for consideration. And by including this delegation request, this would avoid any delays in the development approval process. I'm here to answer any questions, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I think this was just a tweaking of the policy that came in front of us in June, is it not?
That is correct, Your Worship. I currently have delegated authority to deal with a number of matters, a number of agreements. But yeah, this is just a modification that would, if allowed, would allow for the addition of subdivision agreements to be executed.
Okay. Council, any questions for Mr. Bancroft? Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, Mayor Work. What does it mean by execute subdivision agreement? And when is that in the process?
So through Your Worship, so executing simply means having the agreement signed on behalf of the municipality. And currently, procedurally, the way it's currently undertaken is there's a bylaw that needs to be passed by council authorizing the mayor and the clerk to sign the agreement. So if this modification is allowed, it would allow myself to sign the agreement on behalf of the municipality, and we wouldn't have to wait for the next council meeting.
Councillor Patterson, I apologize. They're just working on the screen, so I can't see. Do you have any further questions on that?
Yeah, just so I understand, like, sorry, Mayor Work, just so I understand, the process has already been approved and we've gone through the public portion, and of course, Middlesex County approves subdivision agreements. So this is just basically reducing that waiting period of maybe 15 to 30 days, or maybe even a few more days after that. Is that correct?
Yeah, to be clear, through Your Worship, subdivision agreements are something that are authorized locally. So that is not a County of Middlesex responsibility, even though the county is the delegated authority for plans of subdivision. Simply put, we execute the agreement locally, and then that in turn allows us to provide the county with, you know, the necessary clearance that we're ready for final approval to be issued in terms of actually having the subdivision, the lotting created, that sort of thing.
Okay. Any other questions, Council? Councillor Patterson, any other question? Okay. So we have the report to be received as information, and then we have that the recommendation that the Director of Planning be delegated the authority to execute the subdivision agreements, and that the clerk be directed to revise Schedule A of the corporate policy CPA 7.1 to reflect this delegation of power. Do we have a mover? Councillor Heeman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so one opposed and so carried. Moving on now to Thames Center fence bylaw BL 00121, and I believe CEO Henry, you're taking this report.
I am, Your Worship. Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. Before you is report BL 00121, Thames Center fence bylaw. As Council will recall, in 2019, staff implemented a new fence bylaw as it previously did not exist. And with that has come some couple of tweaks, and we found something that was necessary to do so in respect to the accessory building setback for fence locations. So their report is before you, and if there's any questions, I'll certainly try to help.
Okay. Council, any questions about this fence bylaw? I think it's just for the ease of the homeowners to be able to tend to their fences. No? Okay, so a mover. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? So moved. And now we have report CS 01121, outdoor recreation complex consideration of second ball diamond. And oh, there is Mr. McDonald. Welcome, and go ahead with the report.
Good afternoon, Council. Through you, Your Worship. Before you, you have report CS 11-21 with the subject being the consideration of a second ball diamond for the outdoor recreation complex. The recommendations in this report are, first of all, that council receives this report for information, and that council authorizes the Director of Community Services and Facilities to issue an RFP for the design build of a new baseball diamond, which will specify that this opportunity is a tentative project pending budget approval. Further recommendations are that council approves this project for future budget considerations, that council supports this project in principle, and finally, that council supports fundraising initiatives related to the project. So the purpose of this report today is to advise council of this exciting opportunity that has presented itself to the municipality for your consideration. Thanks to the Great Lake Canadians Baseball Club and the work that they've done to be awarded this AstroTurf. So as for background, Great Lake Canadian Baseball Club was awarded the successful bid on approximately 120,000 square feet of AstroTurf, along with the granulated rubber infill that goes directly underneath turf. Great Lake Canadians has become a valued partner at our outdoor recreation complex. Not only are they a primary renter and user of the ORC baseball diamond for their elite level ball teams, they also contribute a great deal of resources through time, labor, and donations to help maintain and upgrade the facility. And this has been ongoing for over 5 years now with GLC. So they generously handled, GLC generously handled the logistics and all of the costs associated to deliver all of this turf and rubber to the ORC. That entailed 16 tractor trailer loads back and forth between Toronto and Dorchester, 84 rolls of turf, with each roll of turf weighing between 9,000 and 15,000 pounds, and a significant amount of time. The value of the donation of this high quality AstroTurf, which was only used for 4 years in the Sky Dome, is approximately $400,000. So it provides us with an exciting opportunity for council's consideration. The intention at this point is to determine project specifications and to seek bids for the design build of a new diamond to meet those specifications. And the plan is to do this in advance of budget consideration. This would then allow information to be available for council's consideration during the budget deliberations. Staff anticipate minimal cost and no risk to the municipality in regards to the recommendations in this report. The only costs at this point are a $10 fee for the turf and granulated infill, which is kind of a symbolic payment for the turf, as well cost to retain the services of a professional consultant with extensive experience in design, tendering, and construction administration for artificial turf facilities to help finalize all specifications for the RFP, including a conceptual master plan, a 3D SketchUp model, which is attached to this report, and a cost estimate. And the third cost at this point is just the cost to rent the security fencing for the turf and rubber. And a bit more detail on those costs and how we would cover it is on page 2 of the report. And then as well, I just wanted to touch a little bit more on Great Lake Canadians and their partnership with us. On the top of page 3, it covers off in detail everything else that they are willing to assist with and commit to with a potential second ball diamond, including fundraising initiatives, including additional donation from themselves, including increasing the facility and municipal exposure on a provincial, national, and international level for ball teams. Annually increasing, they already bring in about 100 teams per year between the Great Lake Canadians and the Canadian Premier Baseball League. And this would expand greatly with a second diamond. They would also help in endeavors to make this a national championship venue and potentially a national team training facility. And as well, they're invaluable with all of their knowledge and experience in helping in the design process of this potential ball diamond. As a result, due to Great Lake Canadians' incredible level of ongoing commitment and dedication to our baseball facilities, Thames Center staff recommends formalizing our partnership with GLC through a public-private partnership. That would allow Thames Center to provide improved services and facilities to the community while recognizing the continued efforts of GLC. So this partnership consideration, I'll bring this back to council for your consideration before the 2022 budget deliberations. And then with respect to financial impacts, the 2018 DC background study includes ball diamond expansion at the Orc, with the project being 100% developmental, being covered 100% by development charges, other than a mandatory 10% statutory deduction. However, mind you that we're undergoing an update to the DC bylaw, and staff anticipate the removal of the mandatory deduction. This could thus allow the portion of the project not covered by fundraising to be fully funded by the DCs. Further financing details could be determined and provided during the 2022 budget deliberations. Council support of the project at this time in principle would allow Thames Center and GLC to begin fundraising initiatives. And with that, we realize that donation receipts would not be issued. They would be generated but not issued until the project is fully approved if council decides to go that direction. But that would allow us to accept donations, generate the donation receipts, and then hold on to them until a final decision is made by council. The final thing I'll do is just draw your attention to the two attachments to this report. The first one being a 6-page 3D SketchUp of the potential diamond. And then the second attachment just being a 1-page concept plan. So that second attachment, it shows the footprint of the proposed diamond along with its position in relation to other landmarks at the ORC. And with that, I'm happy to try and answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you. And I think at this time we owe a vote of thanks to the councils that came before us that had the foresight to develop the ORC. It has really turned into a wonderful facility for anybody that's playing baseball, and is well appreciated. And I know one of my highlights visiting there was when we had all the scouts there for the young baseball players that were up and coming. And I think there was maybe 6 or 7 major league scouts there that day. So it's great to see how well used and appreciated that facility is. So it seems like some exciting news that you're bringing us forward. Council, any questions or considerations that you would like to, Deputy Mayor Elliott?
Yes, through you, Your Worship, just a comment, and I say this as a mom of an Ontario Nationals who is Great Lake Canadians competition in CPL, but thank you has to go to Chris Robinson and everyone at Great Lakes Canadians for the work they've done at the ORC and all of the effort. Not just in financial dollars, but in manpower and putting this all together. This is exciting, not just for Thames Center, but for our entire Southwestern Ontario area to put together a project like this. And for everyone who plays the CPL, this is very exciting. So thank you to Chris and his team at Great Lake Canadians.
Any other comments? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, question, Mayor Work. Is it my understanding that the AstroTurf is on location at the ORC currently, right as we speak now?
Director McDonald?
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, that is correct, Councillor Patterson. It arrived over the course of about 5 days from July 21st to 26th. As soon as, so GLC was the group that applied directly for this asset. And once they were awarded their tender, the Rogers Center needed to get rid of the material. With the Blue Jays coming back to Canada to play and with the new turf already in place. So it is indeed at the ORC right now, all stacked up in the parking lot with security fencing around it.
Any other questions, Councillor Patterson? Go ahead.
Yes, sorry, just one moment. Just looking at the report, if this is coming to our budget, I'm assuming this November or December, our staff, our Mayor Work, is staff confident that we can get the RFP issued and built for next season?
Director McDonald?
You know how government works. Sometimes things take longer than normal. So.
Well, speak for yourself.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, Councillor Patterson, that is the intention. And that's part of the reason for the urgency of this report and the specific recommendations that we've requested are that in approving the recommendations, that will allow us to get out to tender and give ample time for those qualified to bid and get the bids back in time for count. So, and the nice thing about that is, as opposed to just kind of having a rough estimate on a project of this magnitude, we would have specific exact quotes. And then budget consideration, we would have exact cost in hand. If council decides to proceed with this opportunity, exactly we would require, and at that time as well, we could then know what is available, how much in our DC for funding, as well as what has been fundraised to date by Great Lake Canadians to help offset the costs. So that would just, first of all, line us up for council being able to make the most informed decision possible in the December budget deliberations. And then secondly, it would allow us to be off to the races before a lot of other projects with our budget normally approved in December, that we could then award the job right after, and that winning company would then, weather permitting and depending on if the ground is frozen or not, they could start site work as early as February or March. And with that, the reason being so that there is then definitely potential that the 2022 ball season could include time on the new ball diamond.
Okay, any other questions, Councillor Patterson? No, okay, so we have here a question from Councillor Heeman, or?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so I like the initiative. I think this is a good process for an opportunity that was presented, and I do like the opportunity of getting RFPs prior to the budgeting process. I think that that's an important thing to acknowledge in terms of the efforts of staff and council to get us into a much more progressive timing for budgeting exercises. And I think it gives us a lot more control over our ambitions. So I think that is, as much of a positive development as the actual turf itself. And I think that, again, this facility is aptly named in terms of Field of Dreams, and I think that we are getting a lot more further into our aspirations of being a cutting edge world-class recreation destination. And I would just ask that we continue those efforts with equity for both population centers and township.
I'm just really forgetting our budget in December these days, as opposed to later on down the pipe, because it does make it easier. All right, any other comments? Okay, and so looking for, here we have a motion that says that we receive the report for information, that we authorize the Director of Community Services and Facilities to issue an RFP for the design build of a new baseball diamond, which will specify this opportunity as a tentative project pending budget approval, and that council supports this project in principle, and that council approves this project for future budget considerations, and that council supports fundraising initiatives related to the project. Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? Oh, do you have a question, Councillor Patterson, or you're in favor?
Oh, I'm in favor.
Okay, sorry, it's just a delay, so I'm not just trying to cover all the bases, so to speak. And okay, so we're all in favor? Yeah, great, thank you. Thank you, Steve. Okay, PSTS 00321, TC 00921, Richmond Street Active Transportation Tender Award. And welcome, Director Craven. Just very quiet.
Jared, we can't hear you. Try muting and unmuting.
There you are. Speak. No.
Alan's on his way to you, Jared. Just be patient for a second.
Our IT are on their way to assist you. Here it was running. Very difficult.
Here it comes.
Excellent idea. All right, so now we have Director Craven here and present in flesh.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Before you have report PW-PS-003-21, Richfield Active Transportation Project Tender Award. As I can have council recall, this is the Richmond Street project that was stretched between the CN Tracks and Marion Street. It's active transportation. We received $149,000 of funding. We went to tender. The tender came in. Low bid came in $172,567. We're asking council to approve this with the additional funds from the Transportation Capital Reserve Fund. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Council, any questions regarding this? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, Mayor. What's the $20,000 contingency fund for? What's the expectation there?
Councillor Pat, through your worship, Councillor Patterson, that's just contingency for any kind of unforeseen items that do come up. You know, extras, line painting, just extras that usually a project like this just usually carry with them. Unforeseen. It's not. It probably won't be used, but it's just there just so we don't have to come back and ask for more.
Any other questions, Councillor Patterson? I think the fact that we have like quite a substantial amount of funding for this project is a good step forward. I mean, I think the investment by us is minimal for the benefits that we should see. And I know this is something that our residents have been very vocal about, is to make sure that there is a way to be able to walk down our streets. And that's certainly something that we want to do, is we want to keep encouraging this active transportation. So thank you. All right, any other questions before I call the vote? Okay, so we have a recommended motion is that the report is received for information. That council awards TC 0921 Richmond Street Active Transportation to JR Excavating Limited in the amount of $172,567.46. I don't know where they get the 46 cents from, including the non-rebated HST. And that council approved additional funding of $42,567 and again 46 cents, including $20,000 in contingency from the Transportation Capital Reserve Funds towards Richmond Street Active Transportation Project. Looking for a mover? Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? So moved. And now moving on to PWES 00921. Which is the King Street Sewer and Road Construction Tender Award. And Mr. Craven, this is yours again.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. Report PWPS-00921 is the King Street Sanitary Sewer and Road Reconstruction Project. This report provides council with a recommendation on the project award for the King Street Sanitary Sewer and Road Reconstruction Project and a breakdown to determine the funding. If I may just give you a little background on this project here. The construction portion of this project which includes the sanitary sewers, storm sewers, and road works between the CN rail tracks and the Fairview Road. An RFT was issued and closed on July 22nd, 2021. There are 3 original registered plan takers, but on the closing date, only 1 bid was received from Lucon Construction Limited. The tender bid was reviewed by our project engineer, which is R.B. Anderson, and it was determined to determine adherence to the specifications, and it was compliant and correct. When asked, R.B. Anderson also compared this bid with similar other road reconstruction project tenders that they had had early in the year within the City of London. Didn't find any unbalanced line items in the Lucon Construction's bid. R.B. Anderson recommends proceeding with the project in 2021 due to the expected increase in tender prices in 2022 when Ontario Regulation 406-19, which is the on-site and excess soil management regulation requirements, are implemented. These new regulations, effective January 1st, will require testing for contaminants and a removal plan for soils. They estimated that this may add $200,000 to $300,000 in capital costs for this project alone. The total bid price for this project cannot be publicly disclosed in this report in accordance with Section 8.10 of Bylaw 46-2021, the procurement policy, which states, in the case where only 1 bid is received, only the bidder's name shall be posted. The reason behind this is to protect the competitive process and proponent in the instance that council directs staff to retender the project immediately or in the future. If I can summarize the financial section of the report, the portion of the project related to the county roadworks will be funded solely by Middlesex County. When considering both the contract bids price received and the removal of the county roadworks component and project management, the total project, if awarded, would be over budget by approximately 31%. The sidewalks and boulevard portion of this project are within budget. The stormwater portion of the project, if awarded, would be over budget by approximately 8%. Staff recommends that if awarded, the additional coverage on the storm water component of the King Street project will be funded from the Stormwater Capital Reserve Fund, which will place it overdrawn by $62,000. The balance will be returned to a surplus in 2022 with the transfer to reserves in 2022. The sanitary sewer portion of the project, if awarded, would be over budget by approximately 79%. After review, it's determined that this was that over budget because of prior year, the project was not inflated to reflect more accurate costs. Considerable cost increase related to COVID pricing was not considered, and no contingency were considered as well. The overall will be covered by the following. The section from the CN tracks to Lions Lane is recoverable through development charges. Watson and Associates are currently completing an update to the DC background study, and additional costs for this project will be recognized when calculating the updated DC rates. Staff are recommending that the overall overage related to the DC recoverable portion of the project to be funded from DCs, and anticipate that the additional funding may result in overdraft balance in the wastewater DC reserve while we await collections of the DCs from development. Balance of sanitary costs not attributed to development will be recovered through connection fees. These connection fees per property will be determined once costs are finalized and the number of existing and future property connections have been determined. The wastewater reserve will initially fund the portion of the project that will be recovered from connections. These connection fees, when collected, will be put into wastewater reserves to replenish that account. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you for that report. I feel like we've been talking about King Street for many, many years now, so we are getting to the point where we can make some decisions, so it's good to hear. Council, any questions regarding this report? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, Mayor Work. In terms of the stormwater portion of the project is over budget, and then the balance in the reserve would be returned to surplus in 2022. But the sanitary portion of the project, there's no timeline there. I'm just curious of what they expect the timeline to be in terms of replenishing the wastewater reserve.
Well, Kim's right there, so we'll let her answer that. Like a magic genie, she's appeared on the scene.
Thank you, and through you to all of council. We would anticipate that the development charges portion of the project is actually funded upon issuance of building permits. So when the Elliott subdivision enters that development stage and begins to build, we'll start to recover that development charge portion of the project. The other portion of the sanitary project is actually funded through connection charges. So I would anticipate that at a future meeting of council, a report be brought forward once the numbers are actually finalized to determine what those connection fees would be for the benefit to existing portion, as well as for future connections that would be available for both infill lots within that King Street area, as well as any other areas within Thorndale that would benefit from the installation of that sanitary infrastructure. So it's solely based on the timing of development and the build out of that subdivision, as well as at the time of connection for the benefit to existing.
A follow-up question, Councillor Patterson?
No, that's great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kim. Any other questions, council? Councillor Neiman?
I appreciate Director Crater bringing the potential soil costs to our attention. I'm just curious, I know we have an extensive asset management plan. Is there some way that we can look at the potential impact of these future costs once that is phased in? Because that is not a small impact, I think, to our construction budget in the future. And I think that's something that not to be underestimated.
CEO Henry.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Heeman. I appreciate the question. This isn't something we've taken lightly. This is also something we're witnessing across the county, and not only in this county. I don't want to point out Central Huron, but they've encountered a large circumstance like this. We're well aware of it. We're looking at ways to get ahead of it. The previous report to this, or a couple back, in respect to the ball diamond, certainly shows a more proactive way that we can do this. The ideal situation for municipalities when it comes to tendering and getting the best price out there is not ideal, simply because our budgets are very much disclosed and that kind of thing. So there's lots of things that we're going to do to take away some of those surprises, if you will, particularly on the heels of the pandemic and this situation, which we're not thrilled about, but are forced to discuss with council for your consideration.
Go ahead, Councillor Neiman.
That said, in light of all of the construction cost increases that I think we've all seen in our personal lives in small ways, so I don't think that this is, I think it's relatively small given the larger inflation that we've seen throughout the economy. So again, we only had one come to bid, but there's still that due diligence on the front end that I think is carrying forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are getting hit with unexpected raises, and that's something that we've done in the past. We don't want to get caught again like that. Okay, any other questions before we call the vote? Okay, so looking for a mover. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott. All in favor? And so now we have the mayor's report, county council report. Feels like we've been forever since I have been here, but I'm gonna let you know it's not gonna be a big report, so don't worry. July 16th, I attended a virtual meeting with Jeff Urick, and Tatnall being the top aggregate producing municipalities in Ontario, and we being one of the top 10. Discussions there were again regarding the assessment value of our pits and whether they're being fairly assessed. And it is going to be an interesting topic in the next few months, because Tatnall has hired lobbyists to go to the province to see what can be done and what should be done. And there was quite a good discussion with Minister Urick about that. July 21st, in an attempt to highlight our transportation system that was unfortunately launched during COVID. And I've said this a million times when the province told us to stay home, which is an unfortunate time to set up a transit system. We are trying to boost people's knowledge of that, and we're doing that by taking bus trips. So it was a great day on July 21st when our warden, Kathy Burkhart-Jessen, our deputy Mayor Elliott, and myself were able to take a bus trip that started here in Dorchester, went to Tillsonburg, and we were greeted by members of Tillsonburg Council, which was great to see. And then we went on a bus to Norfolk and again met with officials from the Norfolk County as well. Again, it was a great way to see and highlight what the bus system can do for people. And it was a great day for tourism as well. July 29th, Middlesex County hosted SCORE, which is the South Central Ontario Region Economic Development Group, which I am currently vice chair. Middlesex presented to them, and we had again Kathy Burkhart-Jessen, our CEO for the county, Bill Rayburn, and also featured was our wheelchair rugby national assistant coach, Dave Wilsey, who enlightened everybody on what they'll be doing in the next few little bits. And that was well received. August 3rd, I attended a meeting again on our community transit update. And the nice thing about that is, for anybody who may not be aware, the funding from the province that covers that project has been extended for 2 more years, which not only helps us work and tweak our routes and develop them, but also for the people that are on the technical side of things that are hired to do this, it gives them 2 more years of job stability as well. So that was a really welcomed announcement. August 4th saw the special events group meeting, and sounds like we're going to be starting to get somewhat back to normal. There's lots of excitement about the upcoming movie nights, and of course the tentative Bridge Fest, which sounds more and more solid every day that we do it. So stay tuned for that. August 6th saw another bus trip. This time we featured Lambton Shores transit system, and we left, Deputy Mayor Elliott left from Thorndale to Masonville. I unfortunately had some things in the morning, so I couldn't go from our bus, but I did meet her in the parking lot, and we were able to successfully hop on the bus to Grand Bend. We picked up our warden in Lucan, and we were met by Mayor Bill Weber and when we landed in Grand Bend. And had a great time and a great visit with him, and then took the bus back. So I encourage anybody who wants a nice relaxing day to do that. It's a great way to just get on the bus, go to the beach for the day or shop, and then come back. And lots of fun. So that concludes that report. Any unfinished business to bring forward? Seeing none, then I have a notice of motion. So I'll turn the floor over to Deputy Mayor Elliott.
Sure. Through you, Your Worship, I do have a notice of motion, and I will read it out, albeit it's a little bit lengthy, but whereas the need for reliable, efficient, and affordable regional transportation in Southwestern Ontario is imperative to the success of our region, including the need for passenger rail, and that the combination of the province of Ontario's recently established Southwest Ontario Transportation Task Force, the investments in intercommunity transit, including the bus services that Mayor Warwick just spoke of that runs through the municipality of Thames Centre and the County of Middlesex, and new providers replacing the loss of Greyhound's Canadian operations shows the need for regional transportation. And that the City of London's Strategic Priorities and Policy Committee recently passed a motion brought forward by Mayor Ed Holder and Deputy Mayor Josh Morgan to direct the City of London staff to develop a conceptual framework for a regional transportation mobility hub within the City of London for their council's consideration, and that the City of London Mayor Ed Holder engage with the Southwest Ontario Transportation Task Force membership on the opportunity to position the City of London as regional transportation mobility hub for consideration by the province of Ontario. And therefore be resolved that the municipality of Thames Centre support the City of London's opportunity to position themselves as the regional transportation mobility hub to best serve the residents of Thames Centre and across Southwestern Ontario. And then a copy of this motion be sent to the City of London Mayor Ed Holder, Deputy Mayor Josh Morgan, and their City Clerk. And just a comment, if I can, when we were on the bus, when we went to Grand Bend on Masonville, we got on the bus with a lady who has recently retired. She's never driven in her life before. She lives in the city of London and is dependent on public transit. And the fact that she can now get on a bus and go to Grand Bend for the day. She's from Sarnia. She's used Stratford Caradox microtransit to get home to see her family in Sarnia. And when we met her back at the end of the day on the bus, getting on Grand Bend, the excitement she had for being able to get outside of the city of London, it really struck me on the importance of having transit like this. So to create, for the city of London, to create a regional transportation mobility hub where all of these transit opportunities can exist and so close to Thames Center that we can use our own microtransit to connect into all that and allow that connectivity to our residents is so imperative. And I feel very strongly that if the City of London is able to do this, and if they can have the advocacy from not only Thames Center, but other municipalities surrounding when they go to the province of Ontario to really advocate for this, I think is so important. And so I would put that motion on the floor.
Great, so we have a motion. Any looking for a seconder, first of all? Councillor Heyman. Any discussion about this motion? Okay, Councillor Heyman, sorry.
Yeah, I think that this is a very intriguing idea, and I think that more of these regional transit systems are developed. I think that they're very much in need of a central hub. During my formative years at the University of Guelph, lived downtown, was able to see a very similar instance where the Greyhound station was sold to the city, and they put in a really nice transportation hub that helped drive some of the revitalization of the downtown area there. And I think we are at our best as a region when the county and the city are working together. So I see this as a great opportunity.
I would agree. I think that this might be the missing piece, you know, that connection piece that we have. And I think, you know, when the province is putting 2 more years of funding out, that's one more reason for everybody to feel comfortable with the continuation of this, because it was a rough start, you know, when we had buses going to schools that weren't open and went on from there. So I am really, you know, looking forward to see what comes of this. So we have a mover, we have a seconder. Any other comments before I call the vote? Okay, any support? In favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. New business, not seeing any, no closed session that I know of. So now we have bylaws, and the bylaws being that 60/2021 through bylaw 69/21 be approved as presented. However, council, just looking through there, is there anything that needs to be pulled out? Is there any reason for any other discussion on them before we go ahead as a group? No, if not, I will call the vote that the bylaws 13.1 to 13.9 or no 13.10 being the confirmatory bylaw be approved as presented. So I'm looking for a mover. Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favor? Okay, it's quite handy. I can see Councillor Patterson right in front of me, so I can see that hand go up. And our meeting schedule tells me that our next meeting is September 13th, 2021 at 1 p.m. And now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Hunter, seconded. Deputy Mayor Elliott, but nobody really disagrees with adjourning, I don't think. All in favor? So carried.